Devil Dogman outside my window. Dear Scary Stories NYC. I grew up in a northern suburb in Wisconsin, and two of my friends told me they had seen the Dogman. I was more afraid of that creature than anything else in my youth, and when I finally was able to move out of home, the first thing I did was get myself an apartment in a building with lots of tenants. They say dogmen don't bother people who live in apartment buildings. I've even heard it said on your channel. Well, first I want to take you back in time as I retell the Wisconsin werewolf stories that my two friends lived through. And then I want to tell you about the dogman currently bothering me, at least until I can get out of this place for good. The dogman that's bothering me is the worst kind. He's a devil dogman. His eyes don't just have eyeshine. They glow bright, as though they were little electric light bulbs. You can see them in pitch darkness, even if you can't see the creature that they're attached to. I think the beast haunting me currently is demonic, but I am not certain if the two sightings my friends had were also of demonic entities, or if they were natural animals who just bore a surface resemblance to this thing that's torturing me. Nevertheless, they were all dog-headed, furry, upright creatures, so I'm going to lump them together for the sake of this email to you. I'll call my friends Alex and Bertram, just because those are A and B names that I chose randomly. Alex saw his dogman when he was 13 or 14 years old, which was some time before I met him. When he first told me this story, I thought he was making it up to scare me, because I had just moved into his neighborhood in Wisconsin. He was also the one who first told me about the Beast of Bray Road, which I looked up. It turns out those sightings happened well south of where we lived. I told Alex I didn't believe him, that dogmen only lived down by Bray Road, not by Bradley, Wisconsin up north near us. In response, Alex called me a dolt and pointed out that we lived between 87 state forest and hunting areas, and that we had all kinds of wild things living around us, only a small fraction of which were officially known to exist. I've been friends with this guy 10 or 11 years by now, and I gave up doubting him some time back. So here's how his dogman story goes. Remember, this happened back when Alex was like 13 or 14. It was a hot summer day, and his family hopped into the station wagon and drove to the ice cream shop that's over by the Tilted Loon Saloon. I mean the one that's sort of by the water on Lake Nokomis, that's shaped like a windmill. It's a pretty awesome place. I've gone there a few times myself. So his family brought their little yappy dog, who was usually very well behaved and stuck close to the kids. That day she took off yapping and snarling into the woods. So Alex and his younger brother had to run into the small forest behind the ice cream place. Alex told me they ran almost all the way over to the bootlegger's lodge when they finally saw what the little dog was freaking out over. It was another dog, but this one was much taller and much thicker, like a gorilla, and it was standing up on its hind legs. Not on the ground either. It was up on a branch in a tree, too high for the pup to get to. Alex said he knew he had to go over there and take that little dog away, but each time he started to approach, the upright standing dog in the tree would bare his teeth and make this really scary sound that Alex said was different from and worse than growling. His younger brother, who was a lot smaller than Alex, was able to just walk up and pick the little dog up, while the dogman in the tree was focused on Alex. So it did work out in the end. I initially just didn't think the story made sense. I mean, the dogman seemed scared of the little puppy, but not afraid of Alex. As the years wore on and I heard the anecdote a few more times though, I now think that maybe the dogman just didn't think the yappy dog was worth engaging with. I mean, Alex's pup might have bitten him, and there wasn't enough meat on the little one's bones to make it worth taking down for food. At any rate, Alex has never changed his story, so I don't really doubt it anymore. His description of the creature was kind of interesting to me in that he said it had dark fur, but it was also dripping wet, so that may have caused the fur to look darker. The dripping wet part implies to me that he might have swam over to that area from some other part of Wisconsin. There are a lot of bodies of water in this state, so it makes sense to me that Dogman figured out how to swim. It increases his ability to remain mobile, but it also widens the kinds of foods available to him. So now let's skip to Bertrand. Or no, what did I name him? Bertram. Clearly that is not his real name. Okay, Bert was on a date when he had his encounter with the Dogman. Bert was driving delivery for his dad's pizza shop since he was 16. Bert, I mean, not his dad. But I think he was 17 or 18 probably when this story happened. He had taken his date to Kelly Castle, which is this castle in the middle of nowhere overlooking the water. It's a touristy thing, kind of a bit north of us. Then afterward, the two of them were driving around looking for a forested sort of a place that they could turn into their own private lover's lane. The sun was going down, and the sky was beautiful, so the two young adults went searching for a little privacy. There's a road that leads out of the castle back towards civilization, but Bert and his flirt decided to divert. They took a turn in the woods they were unfamiliar with, and they found themselves driving through a wet, swampy area with thick tree and vegetation growth all around them. They found a dry patch of land off the road to pull onto, and Bert parked the car behind some trees. It was exactly what they had been looking for, but they hadn't anticipated it feeling so creepy. There were a weird combination of swamp and forest sounds going on, sounds that they were unfamiliar with. Maybe it was frogs, maybe it was owls, maybe it was insects. But the two of them felt like they were trying to get romantic on a haunted foreign jungle planet. So things weren't exactly going as planned. That was when everything suddenly got super quiet. Bert told me he popped his ears because he thought he was losing his hearing. It also felt like the atmosphere pressure changed. And this was all just a few seconds before the creature appeared before them. Now, unlike Alex, the first detail Bert mentions about the Dogman that he and his date saw was the eyes. It had glowing eyes that were amber-colored and mesmerizing. That was the word Bert used, mesmerizing. They saw the eyes before they heard the creature moving through the underbrush to approach them in their car from the front. Alex told me it was like a scene from a 1950s horror movie, except it was in color. So I guess maybe that makes it more like a scene from an 80s horror film, doesn't it? Only in this one, nobody got slashed by the monster. When Bert turned the key in the ignition, the headlights came on, and he told me he got to see about the clearest view of a swamp dogman that anyone could ever hope to see, but only for about 1 second before it covered its eyes with its forearms and did a sidestep skedaddle sort of a move. 1 second later they heard a splash in the darkness, and they knew the beast had returned to the swamp that it had clearly come from. So what did Bert get to see in that 1 second of clarity? According to what he told me, he saw a dripping wet man covered in long dark dog fur, tinged at the edges in a greenish color. He said the fur hung down like tree moss from down south, and that the eyes, which had shone out orangey yellow in the darkness, looked black like an animal's eyes in the light. It had pointed ears up on top of its head and what he called a mouth like an alligator. I assume that meant he had a long snout and many scary-looking teeth. Since both sides retreated from this encounter, that's how this story ends. Now onto our main attraction, which is the Dogman that I've been seeing, hearing, and experiencing insomnia over. I call him the Devil Dogman. I call him a lot of other things too, but I can't repeat them here. You know, I'm cracking a lot of jokes as I'm writing this. It feels incredible to finally be able to share this with the world, even if I'm not attaching my name to it. I think it's because I've been able to sleep since I ended up in the hospital. It's remarkable what a good night's sleep for 2 nights in a row can do for you. But they want to release me in the morning, and I'm already getting nervous about trying to sleep in my own home any longer. Let me start at the beginning. This way I can explain the Dogman, as well as how I ended up here. So, like I said in the beginning, I've wanted to move to an apartment building for years now, so that I wouldn't have to worry about the Dogman. I had never seen the creature or whatever it is, but I just told you the 2 stories that made me paranoid about it. So I got an apartment that is technically in the basement of my building, but it's in the back and faces a courtyard that's lower than the street, and woods behind the place. When I first walked into that apartment, I thought it was the perfect mix of city life and country life for me. In fact, I used the word perfect a lot when I described it to my family and friends. I bet the Dogman was thinking the exact same thing. So one thing that didn't dawn on me before moving in was that it kind of defeats the purpose of living in an apartment building. If you aren't living somewhere up in the air somewhere, like on the 5th or 17th floor or whatever. If you're living on the ground level in the back of a building looking onto the woods, you haven't really moved out of the Dogman's neighborhood at all, have you? I'm probably the one guy in the Midwest living in an apartment building who still has to deal with the Dogman. I truly am a genius of moving. You know, if I ever tell you an apartment is perfect, put on your track shoes and run. So the Dogman I see is colored like a wolf, like a brown wolf. His head looks like a wolf's head for the most part, but those eyes are not the eyes of a natural animal. I can't even describe this horrible thing without telling you that I am convinced that it is demonic and that it is foul. There's just something wrong with this thing. It causes me to lose my sense of humor. It's a headache and a pain in the neck. It's literally a pain in the neck. I had my bed up against the back window in my room so that I could see the stars at night sometimes and the clouds other times. But when I heard a tapping at the window one night, I woke up to see a nightmare face looking back at me. I mean, yes, it's basically just the face of a wolf, but it also is not. It has an evil look on its face all the time, as though it were funny that I actually thought I could use my bedroom for sleeping. It's just evil straight through to its core. This bad man who somehow looks like a wolf when he, or it, taps on my window. It lets me see that its paws are really more like hands. It seems to enjoy noticing how much that disturbs me. It's both an animal and a man, but something as soulless as that creep can't really stake a claim on being either. How sickening to see a wolf standing like a man, grinning at you through eyes lit from within like light bulbs, showing off his demonic human-style hands, something which no canine was ever meant to possess. The first time it woke me from a sound sleep, the thing waved at me and smiled. I screamed and I fell out of my bed, hurting my neck in the process. When I climbed back up into bed, he was already gone. I drew the curtains shut. I managed to get back to sleep. I told myself it was a dream brought on by my recent move and my fear of ever seeing a real Dogman. The eyes on that thing glowed so brightly. I figured it must have only been a dream. I calmed myself down and I got back to sleep. Then, tap, tap, tap. There was someone outside my window again. This time it was very late in the night. I didn't know anyone to respond that late, I told myself. The tapping continued. It was really making it impossible for me to sleep. Then, it turned into a kind of a scratching sound, and I couldn't deal with it any longer. I pulled the shade open and there it was, the Dogman, standing there, holding something up to show me that I'm not sure I can even describe to you on YouTube. Let's just say it was something that it must have found in the forest that I did not want to see. Not at 3 a.m. Not any time. And it was showing it to me so that I would get upset about it too. When I reacted just as it had wanted me to, I swear I saw that dog thing laugh. It was more of a cackle, really. A sickening cackle, at my expense. The next night, I slept over with a friend of mine. Not one of the guys I mentioned earlier, but by the night after, I was back in the hellhole I pay rent to live in, and I was not looking forward to what might lie ahead. My friend had forced me to borrow his camera, which he set up and loaded for me. He just taught me how to take pictures with it in dark lighting, and I was set. He said if I used my cell phone, I'd still be opening the app after the animal man had already left, but if I used his old school camera that he gave me, then I should be able to get multiple shots of the thing in just a few seconds. So I was even more uptight about that night. I wanted to sleep, but I also had to remember how to operate someone else's expensive antique camera in the dark, in the night, right after I got woke up by a demon from hell scratching at my window. My life has gotten too complicated. I put music on my headphones to blast out any sounds I might hear from outside. It was hard to sleep with loud music playing in my ears, but I'm less afraid of music than I am of the Dogman, so I did it for a while. At some point, though, I woke up when someone was not tapping, but banging aggressively on my window. I pulled the shade open fast and snapped some photos quickly of my building's superintendent, who seemed quite angry with me. It seemed that I had rolled over in my sleep and pulled the earphone plug out of my stereo. I was blasting the music out for the entire building to hear. That night, I was the Dogman, causing insomnia for everyone else. I found that really embarrassing, so I didn't try the loud music thing again after that. And when it's quiet, the devil Dogman comes around and wakes me up. So I had an important job interview, and none of my friends would let me sleep over their place the night before. Of course, the Dogman kept tapping all night. When I sprang up with the camera and opened the drapes to take a picture, he dropped down beneath, where I couldn't get a clear shot of him any longer. He kept me up until very late. Then I overslept in the morning and missed my appointment for the interview entirely. The Dogman was embarrassing me publicly over and over and ruining my entire life. So I was really stressed out. My friends were all sick of me. I had no job with bills coming in, and I couldn't ever get enough sleep to function normally. I finally got fed up. I pulled my Louisville Slugger out of my closet. I opened my window wide, and that night, I sat just to the side of that window where I knew the devil Dogman would not be able to see me. And I held that Louisville Slugger up high when I heard someone, or something, approaching from the outside. And then it happened. The Dogman, clearly curious about what was going on, leaned his head into my window directly under my baseball bat. Well, I swung down as hard as I could, but the Dogman withdrew his head back outside, and my bat slammed down into my lower leg. Hence, the hospitalization. But as I said, I'll be back in the apartment tomorrow, still jobless, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to survive in that environment. I'm trying to talk this Dogman nut that I know into trading apartments with me, at least for a while. He claims he wants to see a Dogman, and I told him I can pretty much guarantee that he'll see the thing if he sleeps over my place. The thing is, I can't guarantee him that what he'll be seeing is in fact an undiscovered species of canine. Personally, I don't think it's a natural animal at all. I think it's risen up somehow from the hell that I wish it would sink back into. No, I don't think that monster is even a living creature at all, in the normal sense. I just think that it is the Devil Dogman outside my window. Our thanks for KC's kind-hearted act. That KC's generous is just a fact, a token of thanks from us to show, for using super thanks to bestow. Please join us in thanking KC Brat, who donated to us using the super thanks button that you can see under each of our YouTube videos. I believe something similar exists on Rumble as well, according to our Rumble insider Julie Sadler. I can't remember, but I think KC Brat is also a channel member here on YouTube, in which case I hope KC enjoyed the new Secret Uncensored episode we ran this past Sunday, with a title I can't even share here. To tell you more about it, here comes our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos, or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.